שלום לכם מאזינים יקרים, גם היום אנחנו בפרק נוסף ומרגש בסדרת הפודקאסטים של תיקל מעל הרדאר. כזכור, אנחנו איה שני וחגי פיליפ זגורי, שנינו חברים בקבוצת הדב-אופס בתיקל, חברת מומחים שפזורה ברחבי התעשייה. אנחנו כאן מנסים להעביר לכם את מה שאנחנו למדים וחווים ביום יום במשימות שלנו, ובכלל להיפגש עם אנשים מעניינים. הפרק הזה הוא פרק אחד מסדרת פודקאסטים שהוקלטו בנובמבר 22, באירוע TechRadarCon בזאפה תל אביב החדש במתחם מידטאון. חגי ואני התמקמנו בחדר האומנים, מיקרופונים, שולחן וסאונדמן אחד העונה לשם נתי. מדי פעם משכנו באסרטיביות רבה את אחד הדוברים, והושבנו אותם לענות על קושיות בנושאי קריירה. ניסינו להציב עמדות לא פופולריות לשם הדיון, התפלמסנו, התפלפלנו, צחקנו, כעסנו והתרגשנו, ובסוף יצא מזה פודקאסט. הפרק היום יהיה באנגלית, אנחנו מקווים שהוא גם יהיה באנגלית מובנת, לפחות לחלקנו.
Thank you, Aya, for the opening in Hebrew. Today we're going to have this podcast in English, so we'll try and do the same introduction in English. Today we have with us Suzanne Daniels from Spotify, and hopefully this podcast will be broadcasted on Spotify also. So
that's Inception.
Yeah. You should listen to that on Spotify.
Yeah. And basically what we're doing today, we're the TechRadarCon of 2022. We're taking everything live here, so we're just grabbing all the keynotes. And like I said, Susan was our keynote from Spotify talking about Backstage. And I think today we want to start talking about platform engineering. And I think I'll let you, Aya, start off with our, getting to know Susan.
Yeah, Susan. So we would like to start this chapter is going to be about your career and your story. So if you can just give us the short version, and then we'll find stuff that we find interesting and start digging inside. So, not really specified, but just a bit of your story. How did you got into where you are?
Yeah, like many people who work in developer relations, and you ask them, they say, I rolled into it. But that's too easy, maybe. So to understand my career, it's good to go back to the beginning. And actually, I decided to start my career when I was at school. Mm-hmm. I had teachers who said, well, you're bad at math. You will never be a good programmer.
Oh, wow.
And, well, this says maybe something about my character. But if people tell you that,
you
tell
can,
me
so you
I
will.
can't, so I will.
Yeah.
So my mission was it was already my mission, but I was totally motivated to get to the point where I could say, I am a decent programmer. And so I did. I started out my career writing software. And also doing a little bit of systems administrations on the sideline. That was the thing that I negotiated out of it. Like, well, I want to do system administration in your software company, but I also want to write code. Mm-hmm. And luckily they let me, which was a very great opportunity. And yeah, well, the rest is history. So from there, I thought that I was more into innovation and see how I can help others succeed in.
Yeah, but that's two different things. Like you have here, two different things. You're telling about working with people and helping them and being with people, and then you're talking about coding, which is in front of a computer most of the time. How did you manage to to combine those two? As a junior, as a start, at the start of your career?
Yeah, so I programmed for a few years. And then I went up and I ended up in after a few other things, I ended up in consultancy. Because why? I didn't feel, I was looking around. I was, I grew out of the company and grew out of the role, and I wanted more innovation, more stuff to do. And I looked around and interviewed at a few companies, but it didn't feel like home to me. They had ping pong tables. They had all these, there's nothing wrong with a ping pong table, but it's not my culture.
Yeah.
People in suits was also something I encountered around that time. And this is way back, I'm 43. So life was different at that time. And you had all these.
When are we talking about? 20 years ago or something like that?
More.
Okay.
I started my first job when I was 17, actually. Cool. So yeah, it goes way back.
Very, very interesting that DevRel is also a new position, isn't it? In the last, 5 to 10 years, roughly.
Yes.
I don't think we've ever heard of.
Yeah, maybe we should make a pause and talk about it for a minute and clarify what is that. If you give us some few words about.
Okay, so yeah, developer relations is basically, well, it's in the title. It depends a little bit on what company you work for, because developer relations is quite new, and not everybody is talking about the same thing when they talk about developer relations. So in some companies, developer relations is a part of marketing. Nothing wrong with that. But then the focus might be a bit more on marketing. It might be a bit more on engaging developers with your content. But it could also be a part of product, of engineering, where you would have more focus maybe on the product feedback. So there's different angles to that. And there's also, developer relations is so broad. You have like a part that is more about the engagement. There's a part where you talk more about evangelism, and also about enablement. So yeah, there's many different takes to that.
And what's your take on that?
My take is all free, because in the end of the day, for me, it is important that no matter what product you're working for or what company you are working for, most important thing is that you drive the adoption of the product. And you can only drive the adoption of the product if people are aware of it. So that's the evangelism part. They need to be able to get their hands on. Like, having a great marketing website is really cool and all, but most developers want to get their hands on it, test drive it, understand how it actually works, and solve their real life scenarios so that they can actually see and experience the value that
and
it
this
brings.
is where you come in. Like, this is what you do.
That's my passion topic. Yes.
We just saw her demo on the keynote, Backstage, which is, it's the Backstage of Spotify. Can we say that? All the development is going on through the Backstage?
No, you can't say that actually. So Backstage is a project that is donated to the CNCF. So it has nothing to do with Spotify, except that it originated at Spotify. And we happen to employ the maintainers of the project at this point. So it is an open source project in the true sense of the word. So yeah, that's just important to notice. It's not Spotify's Backstage. We do have Backstage in Spotify.
Yeah, but that's your day job, right? I mean, promoting that product within Spotify?
No, the most part is promoting it outside of Spotify and working with the community, trying to get the documentation in order, making sure that everything is there to set up developers who want to adopt Backstage and companies who want to adopt Backstage, set them up for success.
Yeah, but I mean, from what I hear, it sounds like you're the type for open source project. I mean, do you find yourself in this community? Do you like it? Because we're like open source enthusiastic ourselves in Tikal. This is one of our main goals to whatever we can do in open source, we'll do it. And we find it very exciting to be part of a community.
Yeah.
So you find it very like you like it. It drives you.
I joined this company because of
it.
Yeah. Because, the thing is, if you want to do community work, and that might be separate from DevRel, by the way. DevRel doesn't equal community. For me, it does, and for this project, it does. But for it could be also that you're a community manager or in another community-focused role, like community engineer or something like that, DevRel engineer. So the thing is, if you want to work in a community, you have to really be passionate about it and believe in what you offer to it. Because otherwise it will, in the end of the day, it's still a job and you need to get paid and you have performance reviews and everything. But you need to be really caring about that, really caring about open source, about the project, about the people in there. Because that is the only way that you can do it. You can bring, it's not the only way that you can do it, but you need to be authentic and bring your true self to it. And sometimes,
it sounds like you're talking Tikal's values.
Yeah,
of being authentic, open source. It's like,
is this a really job interview or is this?
And you got it. Yes, and you got
That's
it.
Weird.
Sorry. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to the chronology of your career.
Yeah.
So you were a young engineer, and you found that you have another field that interests you, and working with people and working for a cause, and looking like more observing stuff. And I don't know if it's okay. If it's not, then we'll cut it during editing. But yesterday, when we talked during the gala event, we found something that is common between us, and you told me that you are over aware of details and observing stuff that no one else see. And I have it too, and we laughed about it a bit. And I would like to ask you, because I think there are many people in the industry that has this this thing in their character. How do you find that during your career? Where did it help you? Like, did you find that it was an advantage in some sorts of career jobs or certain roles?
So after my adventure as a developer, and I was looking around and I didn't feel at home anywhere, at some point I took on a few jobs, and that's not important, but I ended up in consultancy. And in consultancy, there is practically a requirement to focus on that details, that employers who are stuck in a company, who are working there for many years, they tend to have blind spots.
Definitely.
And as a consultant, you have you are empowered to help those companies be more successful. So I brought in my experience around the technologies I worked with, but also my experience as a developer. And I love innovation. I love innovating in tooling that people use to do their best job, in the platforms that they use to do their best job, and try to automate everything, try to make everything as user-friendly as possible. And for me, a user is then a developer in this case.
I think I heard the term developer experience repeatedly in your talk earlier. Right?
Yeah, but that was way back. We didn't talk about developer experience that much. We talked about infrastructure, and I worked for many different clients in their infrastructure teams, but always trying to create a platform which would provide value to developers. Because what I found out is if you do that, then your project is more successful because they will migrate their stuff because they want to.
Yeah, if you give them something good enough, they'll use it. Yeah,
that's exactly the point. That if their experience is good, and it's easy to onboard and use the tools, then I think, like you said, this happy coders make happy code or something like that, right?
Yeah, and it proved that. And the attention to detail, that really helps with these things. Of course, it's also a pitfall if you would work, in a job and be employed by an employer. Like at some point, you might get tired of each other, maybe, or of the work that you do, or like how many details are there?
We're the same.
So that is why consultancy was a good match for me at that point, and I did that
But how would you do that? Because there's something I talked to Chagai about it a lot. Because sometimes you come to a new company and they have these high expectations of you, and you have to. On the one side, you have to scrutinize everything and see every little detail and find those blind spots. And on the other hand, you have to see the whole system. You have to consider so many things inside. And those are two kind of different thinking lines. I don't know what's the term for that, but
I think a consultant and like individual contributors have the same kind of capability of being observant about things, like Suzanne mentioned before, that people that work day to day don't see.
Yeah.
And I think that's why there's always going to be a consultant or someone like a third party that comes in. And there's this phrase in Hebrew called, I'll translate it afterwards, "Orech lerega roe kol pega," that a guest for a few moments sees all the flaws in a way. And I think that eventually we have understood that, and we always need someone to actually give us some kind of, guidance or correction to doing things better. And I think that if we're as a community learn how to take those insights and actually improve, so we're all going into a better place. And I think that's why it's exciting that it's an experience and not something we've been told to do because you want to make more money.
Yeah, but if you're going to a better place. Sorry.
Oh my God,
I'm sorry.
That was dark.
If you're going to, like, And then you had it, like you were a consultant, you had everything, you were like, you had your max abilities going on. How did you become again like a worker in a company, a big company? So how did that happen?
Yeah, so you can bother about all the details, but in the end, if the bigger things, if you zoom out to your earlier extent, if you zoom out, there's a lot more things. There's the broader picture. There's how all stuff aligns to together, and as I at least I can talk about myself. If I when I gain more experience and I gain more insights, and I worked in really large organizations. I always talk like to like senior leadership and that sort of stuff, and always try to understand why, and those learnings that really inspired me to do a bit more, because worrying about the details that's really great, but you can't do that forever. And at some point, you have great the broader knowledge, and you want to put that to good work. So I managed some teams. I became an engineering manager, and then at some point, I was looking around, like thinking, okay, what's next? We were reorganizing the organization I was working for, and I ended up in the office of the CTO. But it didn't like feel that wholesome, and like right at that moment, as if it's meant to be.
You had an enlightenment.
No, a recruiter called me. And that was a bit weird, because the recruiter was from a company which I did not have on my CV any technology basically of, and it was Microsoft. And they asked me if I was interested in talking with them. And that was really funny, because I said, did you call the right Suzanne Daniels? Did you look at my resume?
Sure?
Yeah, are you sure? And but this is of course not Microsoft. When I started working in 2000 or whatever, no 19. Oh, I don't even remember, long ago. Anyways, it's not the same company anymore. You know that they invested in cloud and open source, and so in the back of my head, it made already a little bit sense. But I said, okay, well, let's have a conversation, and let's identify what your question is and what you're seeking and why you are calling me. And I had some conversation, and it was for the partner organization, and helping partners in the Microsoft ecosystem, like develop their propositions technically, but also their capabilities, and also like all those aspects that really, really matter if you want to build a good company, want to deliver great products. Those aspects, those were covered in that role. So I said yes, and I worked a lot with the partners locally in the Netherlands around various topics like app modernization, innovation in general, the digital transformation, all the buzzwords. But really helping them understanding that, like the different problems that they face, like okay, how do I attract and retain talent? How do I set them up for success? Because I want to build a SaaS service. How do I get my people there? But also, how do I make a good proposition with all that technology? So if you talk about zooming out, that is a really good place to work at. And you were like, basically why I was convinced is I do want to do that for one company, which I was doing at the moment because I was like in the office of the CTO.
Well, it's a big enough company to do it. I mean, Microsoft, right?
Yeah, but you have like 12 or 13 partners. And you can work for those, and those partners change
so it's like
every year.
A roof.
I think it's very similar to being like a consultant at Tikal, for example. I mean, I've been doing this for 15 years, and it sounds like a very similar experience to what you've been dealing with larger companies, because there's a lot of stakeholders there, a lot of thoughts and needs and so on you need to take under consideration. So it sounds like
a job interview for Tikal. Round around.
That wasn't the
Please,
point.
if you're from Spotify and hearing this, don't worry. I'm not going anywhere.
They understand English, right? The guys from Spotify.
Yeah.
But it's the second time that you tell us about a career shift, like a really good one, and that got you into where you are today. And it's it's not pure luck because you've built yourself for that. You wouldn't have called you if you weren't yourself, but it's kind of being at the right place at the right time and having an opportunity when you don't have all the skills and don't have all the skill set that they're requiring, but they gave you a chance and then you took it and you made like a really good thing with that. But that is like really important to understand because people are trying to manage their careers and, think like 5-10 years from now. And you can never know about this door that will open on your way to your destination. What were you planning when you got that call? Probably something very different, I guess.
Well, yeah. Well, no, I was planning to do that at one company, and not for 13 partners. But in the end, yeah, if you bring on the challenge, I'm gonna take it, and I'm gonna rock it because
you're not going to be a good engineer.
Yeah, but the thing is, I work hard. I work really, really hard to build my career, but it took me so many years to get to that point. And it's so hard when you have companies that do support you in your growth, but they also determine like what is the ceiling to your growth. Where are you going? We don't do consultancy for CTOs. Okay, that's really great, but I want to grow in bigger roles. So I was struggling with that for like many years. It's hard to climb up that ladder.
Yeah. But what I was trying to say is that you had this flexibility of thinking of one thing when you're building your career, and then when you had the chance, just grab it. Because I think this is something that really worth saying and putting on the table, because this is something that really can jump your career when you're...
Yeah, and don't ever be intimidated by job requirements. Don't ever be. I do not have a studied at a university. I did not. That's like, bucks, If you're listening to this, don't let that put you down. Look at the values that you bring. There's so much in yourself. If you have the motivation and you are able to learn, that's way more important than any study can offer you.
That's why I answer in job interviews when they ask me, do you know whatever? I say, I learn.
Yeah,
I've learned so much things.
I'm very surprised to hear that you. I mean, I'm half European myself, and it was my grandfather and my mother were very pushy about degrees and work. And when I said I'm not going to go to college or university, they gave me the crooked eye, and I think I did pretty well. So I'm very happy to hear that you have the same kind of background. And I'm not sure it's the right, maybe we'll cut this off, but I think in a way it boxes your way of thinking, in a way. I mean, because all these patterns and, that someone put on a curriculum 20 years ago are still being taught today, and people are coming out to the market without the know-how of actually how doing business.
Right.
So we can
and you don't have the flexibility to adjust it
exactly
to what's happening, what you see. It's like the Columbus chips. You look at them and you don't know what it is because you don't have flexibility in your mind.
And that is what is important. And I think that like one of the most inspiring things, talking about Microsoft, that's Satya Nadella, and he wrote that book, and he discusses in great lengths why it's important to not be a know-it-all, but to be able to learn it all. And I think that is the most important thing. And for me, it made sense because that was my go-to thing all the time. But I never realized it until I read that book, hit refresh.
And that's the thing about people like sitting around this table. I think 3 of us haven't gone with the way you should have.
The standard way.
The standard way. And I feel it about myself. There was like a few years that I was so unconfident about my skills and my abilities, and I used to think all the time what I don't know, what I need to. And then there's this epiphany moment when you say, hey, I can do it. It doesn't matter what I have in my back. It's like what I did. I can learn stuff and deal with it. When did you have that? Like, how many years did it took to you? I'm just trying to compare myself here.
I still doubt myself sometimes.
No, that's for sure. Everybody does.
You know, no, but the thing is, I watched a conference talk at some point, or it was a TED talk. I'm not sure anymore, but there was this talk, and it was about applying to job roles, and it's about the difference that is between people who just apply to the job because they see free things they can do or they think they can, and they just go ahead and apply. And the people who are looking at that and are like, yeah, but I don't. Yeah, but I do have experience. But am I good? Am I good? You know, no. If you have the experience and if you work 10 years in a field, you can. You know, you can apply to those jobs. If you want to be a manager, be a manager. But you know, think about, like, is that really what you want? Is like, are you passionate about people? Like, but if that's the thing, then just go for it.
There's a research. It's only Israeli market, but there's a research about gender. They had the numbers are around 80% of the men who applies to job don't have all the necessary skills. They just say, yeah, I saw Kubernetes once. Some of my friends did it. I'll apply. And women has this thing of, oh no, I did it in production, but no, I'm not good enough. And like in Tikal, we had a really big issue because we didn't even got CV of women who wants to come because we have this professional title, and women found themselves really hard to call themselves that. So I'm giving it the gender effect, but it's not just gender. It's about education. It's about gender. It's about where you come from, which neighborhood which social economy are you coming from. It's like you have so many ways, so many barriers you have to cross to come and say, I'm able, I can do that. Yeah. This is like amazing that you did it without any formal education and became like on the spot that you are.
I did have some formal education, but like it ended up like you will never be a good programmer. So I'm not sure.
That's not true.
That's not.
I think that's a challenge accepted the moment, isn't it?
It's a challenge. I spoke to the person like a few years after, and he said sorry. So that's all water under the bridge now. It's why I feel comfortable talking about it. Otherwise, the person might hear it and feel bad anyways. But
you didn't mention any names, so we're okay.
Yeah. But you never know. So and also talking about, like, it's not only about gender, and I think that's also important to know. Yes, there's a problem, or a real challenge with gender diversity, but diversity in general. But it's also neurodivergent people. If they look at something and they're like, you have to do this and this, and you have to have this knowledge, they'll be like, no, I don't have that.
Yeah,
and that's not helping. Because you want to
build
a great product.
You won't touch it.
Yeah, and if you want to build a great product and a great company, then you need to get all those perspectives in. And if you don't understand somebody, sure,
you can ask. It's like language.
Yeah, I think it's part of your attitude. I mean, you're either someone that's against things or someone that knows how to, take the advantages of the things I can do and not the things I can't do.
Yeah.
And I think that's the same thing about building a platform or, providing tools for developers. It's the same kind of thing. Let's talk about what you want to do, what's good for you, what motivates you, and not what does the opposite. And I think that's maybe the changes in approaches that we've been seeing in
psychology. You call it acting out instead of acting in.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
I've been told that by my psychologist. So.
We should exchange numbers. No.
So from that perspective, I would like we need to start closing the chapter. So I would like to give you the microphone because I talked way too much and ask you what is your one or two career advice to people out there who's listening and wondering about where they want to go. Do you have like something, what inspired you and you want to move on or whatever? This is it's yours.
Well, thank you for that. No pressure as well. So first of all, it's great to hear that I'm at a point where I'm actually able to advise and inspire other people. I had a rough journey, and one of the learnings I had was believe in yourself. And when people press you down, just get up again. You know, we would probably now sing a song, get knocked down and get over it. But anyways,
Yeah, to people who didn't watch and weren't here, I would like to say that Susan went upstage with boxing gloves and a
Yeah.
towel.
No, but you missed the Eminem song we were singing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So that was
So
good.
that was
Okay.
yeah.
That was an important thing.
Yeah, but no, all joking aside, so don't let people tell you what you can't do. Focus on what you can do. Stay curious. Stay always hungry, because this world is in changing rapidly in multiple aspects, for the good or the worse. But you need to be able to adapt, and always stay hungry for the things. And please don't try to be a know-it-all, because some gatekeepers think that you need to. Don't listen to the gatekeepers. Follow your intuition and go for it, and just be awesome. Apply for those jobs. Apply for those jobs where you're like, I don't know if I can do that. Just go for it. I would have never, if I would have seen the Microsoft job opening, I would have never done that. If I would have seen like going, so we missed a part of my career, probably the last part. But from Microsoft, I went to Spotify. Why? Because I wanted to focus on, instead of 30 products, on one product. And I wanted to be more involved with open source, closer, like really involved. I made that step, because Spotify is awesome. The product is awesome. The community is awesome. But it's a big step to take.
Okay,
and you
right.
just need to grab the opportunity. Just go for it. And don't feel guilt. Don't feel that you're obliged to stay anywhere. Don't feel that you're not good enough. Just grab the chance with two hands, because otherwise somebody else will take it.
Wow, this is really a cliche, but this is so inspiring. Like, I'm really, what an inspiring words. I couldn't have,
I agree. I mean, someone needs to grab it.
Is this the point where you talk about the TCAL job opening so that people can start applying right now?
No, we just we just had you. We don't need anything else. People at Spotify. No, sorry. Suzanne, thank you so much. It was very inspiring. I really enjoyed our talk. I mean, all the time that you were, I think there are so many people out there with those same that are in different stages of their career, and when they hear you from the other side, like you've done a long way, and you wave back and you say, hey guys, it's okay, come over, you can do it. There's something so good about it, so inspiring, and it gives you strength. And I think it's really, really important for you to spread your word around, and I really enjoyed. Like,
I think I love your slogan is like, just do it.
Yeah.
Very similar to.
Yeah, well, the tagline on my website
shaken,
is
yeah.
the tagline on my website is less inspiring. It says, "My mom still thinks I'm fixing computers." No, she's really proud and following me all along, which is also great, and my father as well. But yeah, it took them also a while, to adjust to like being an IT. It's like you have to sometimes grab the opportunities, but it's not all fun and games. It's hard being in IT.
Yeah.
It's hard to being a little bit different and having a different point of view. But in the end, it's all worth it. So thank you for like inviting me and
Our
giving me the
pleasure.
opportunity to share a little bit back. And if you're listening to this and you want to connect and you want to maybe sometime discuss, I'm gonna regret this probably. You want to discuss it, just reach out to me and and want to understand more about DevRel, because we didn't like get too deep into it. But yeah,
But I think your story is much more. I mean, it's really interesting. I'm happy we talked about it because it was inspiring. Maybe we can do another chapter. It doesn't have to end here.
We can still have a follow up,
Yeah.
and I think that's really most inspiring here is for all these young engineers out there which are afraid to take like the first step. And by the way, we're all about the same age here, and we're the same background, and we still did it. So I think that it's not only our use case, which we talk about quite a lot, in the podcast. It's also an experience that we see abroad, and especially for the keynotes here that are coming to the radar, is really great to see. So I think that if any takeaway is those, just, be brave and take the next step and apply for jobs. And yes, you can do it. So I think that's the best thing we could take away from this podcast.
And be a learn-it-all.
Learn it all. I like
Learn
that.
it all.
Yeah.
Not know it all. That's not good.
Suzanne, thank you so much. Chagai, thank you so much for having this chapter with me. And thank you to everybody who listens. I'm going to do a little Hebrew end of it to connect it to
thank you,
this.
Aya, for conducting this.
It was really great.
Thank you. So I would like to say תודה רבה, which is thank you. תודה רבה לנתי הסאונדמן התותח האלקטרונים שלנו ולאולפני בייסליין. תודה רבה לתיקה המאפשרת לנו להרים את ההקלטות האלו ובכלל. תודה רבה חגי, תודה רבה סוזן. היה כיף, מטורף. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.